Adaptation is a change a person makes when customary responses are no longer adequate to overcome challenge related to life roles. Let's look at mom. She goes to her local store every week to buy groceries. This task is part of her role as a homemaker. What if the store suddenly closes? How will mom adapt to this change in her environment to fulfill her roles? Adaptation involves several neural processes. This presentation aims to discuss some of the areas of the brain involved. Knowledge of these can help the occupational therapist understand the source of the person's maladaptive behaviors. We will look at the basal ganglia, frontal and lateral prefrontal cortex, medial prefrontal cortex, medial temporal, and cingulate cortex. Occupational adaptation is a dynamic process and it involves so many components it will be impossible to cover them all in this presentation. We will only focus on two. Adaptation involves the ability to perceive the need for change and evaluation and feedback. So mom realizes that the store is closed. What does she do? She A. Forces the door open to get in her store. B. Stand there and wait until it opens again. Or C. Realize that it is time for change and look for a new store. We all know that she needs to go to a new store in order to buy the items her family needs. So it is option C. It is time for change. Adaptation involves the ability to perceive the need for change. It involves the following: anterior and posterior cingulate cortex, basal ganglia, medial frontal cortex, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. And so mom finds another grocery store. The store has the brands her family prefers at a lower price. Mom liked the new store that she kept going there even when the previous one reopened. She performed her role as a homemaker and her family was pleased. Adaptation involves evaluation and feedback. It is affected by feedback from the environment. It involves the following: the ventrolateral and dorsomedial prefrontal cortex, orbital frontal cortex, anterior and posterior cingulate cortex. Let us look at how these areas work together. The anterior and posterior cingulate cortex, MTL, prefrontal cortex, and basal ganglia play a role in the perception of the need for change, respond to this need through goal-directed behavior, and encode the outcome of the new behavior. The ACC processes feedback, detects conflict, and identifies the need for change. The MTL retrieves behavior patterns that best apply to the situation. Together, these project to the CGP and PFC. The CGP becomes active when a person perceives the need for change or new strategy. The PFC overrides the basal ganglia. The MFC then sends a signal to the DLPFC. The DLPFC selects the most appropriate response based on the current goal and task demands. The selected representation is then made available in the consciousness for the formation of a behavioral response. It also monitors the environment during task performance. The DLPFC relays information back to the MTL and MFC, which then connects with the cingulate cortex. You may refer to your handouts for a more detailed description. This presentation is only a glimpse at the complex task of adaptation. There are more neural processes involved. Feel free to further investigate the reference materials.
Created using Powtoon.